Hi, Will. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing very well.
Great.
Oh my goodness, this is an interesting day for me. I'm going to be doing this session today from
Oh,
sitting
yeah?
sitting on the floor. Yeah, I'm at my house that I'm selling at the end of this month,
Oh,
and
cool. Oh,
it is
awesome.
so I'm here this weekend now doing the final clean on the home today, and yeah, this is not
Oh,
a
that's cool, man.
themes generated background. This is actually the wallpaper in my house.
So where are you moving to?
That is a great question. I haven't entirely decided yet. I've been a homeowner in this place for the past
Yeah?
5 years, and that's something I'm going to kind of talk to you guys about today in this whole idea of storytelling. But I think I kind of want to enjoy being a nomad for a little bit. I've got the rest of my
Oh,
year that I'm
cool.
looking at for 2024. I am fully remote for my main job as well as secondary stuff. That was great noise in the background. All right. Yeah. So the rest of the year, I don't need to be on site anywhere. So I think I'm really thinking about renting an RV, a big touring van, and taking off across the United States and going to do a bunch of landscape paintings along the way with the Skylink satellite
That
from
would be
Tesla.
so cool, man. That would be so cool. I'm so sorry about that, by the way. Airplanes fly over here when there's too much traffic at the airport. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
But yeah, that
you're
would
in
be so
Florida,
cool. You're
right?
gonna
Where are you
do the
located?
RV. Sorry, you're cutting out a little bit. I didn't hear you there.
It's okay. Are you? So you're at the airport right now.
No, no, no. The area that I live in is we're quite far from the airport, but when the planes are too busy, they circle the area and they come over our area. So we get a queue of planes coming over us on busy nights, like a Saturday.
I understand. Yeah. My goodness. I'm about
Yeah.
8 minutes from Hartsfield Jackson Airport, which is that's located here in Atlanta, Georgia, and that is
Oh,
the
cool.
reason.
You live in Georgia.
Yeah, it's the busiest airport in the entire world.
Wow. Wow, I had no clue.
It's massive. Yeah, if you ever end up there, it will blow your mind how large that thing is. Like, pretty incredible.
I can imagine. That's crazy. Is it only the three of us today?
You know, that's how many people were signed in for this. Maybe we've got one more joining. I always like to give a little bit of padding before I do the whole
Hello?
intro. But
I think David will join us soon. Sorry for interrupting you, but
got one more?
Yes, another one also signed for this session, but he's not still here.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, he joined. Hello, David.
You guys, and I always like to say the less people, the better for these things. So I can actually really get into the juice and the nuts and bolts on your portfolios and give you some real critical feedback and some advice that'll help you move forward, hopefully, and get a job and make some buckos, make some money.
Awesome, man. Much apprecited. Awesome.
Much appreciated. One of the things I would recommend today is that you guys get a physical notepad, get a pen for things so you can actually write down notes. It's one thing to have like a Word document up there, be typing things into your phone. You'll never go back and look at it. Actually, get yourself a pretty big game changer. And one more thing, I'm going to actually go get my notepad. I think that's fun to show you guys today. We'll get started here in 3 minutes. I'll do the intro. I'll be right back. Oh, boy. This is fun. It feels like we're having a powwow because I'm sitting on the floor while we're doing this. I don't know about you guys, but 2024 feels like it has just not slowed down at all since New Year's hit. This year has just been one thing after the other and just nonstop.
It's also flying by. It's flying by so quickly as well.
Yeah. Oh my God. How are we halfway through the year already? Like this is nuts, man.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I still feel like it's like March.
Right? Yeah, I think everyone just took a mulligan on January. When January hit, they were like, whoa, that was a lot. Can we start that one over? We're just not going to count this month. So we're all really working just a month behind.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Give it a couple more minutes here, 2 more minutes, and then we will get started. Bunny Ears Army. So, well, I guess I can, for the people that are joining, they'll just get to hear, but I'll go ahead and give you an overview of how this session is going to go today. Perhaps you guys have been to some of these in the past. I hope that you got something out of it and it was useful for you. It's my goal that if you're going to take your time out of your day, especially on a Saturday, to spend it with me and for us to have this chat, that you do get some actionable things from it. I've been a college professor for about 10 years now and have taught, God, over 1,000 art school students. When you think about it, it's completely daunting. But that's a lot of practice at helping young budding artists get their stuff together, get their portfolios tight, launch them out into the real world. And since I've got a decade's worth of watching them, go off into the ocean and go find their new shores and their new land, I've got a few tips about what has worked for them, as well as I'll be telling stories. That's going to be a big theme today, from my own creative journey and how I got here and things I have learned along the way. And I like how art is always secular. So it seems that we are in a very similar situation right now that we were in when I first left school and started looking out there for work. So I'm going to do a brief introduction. I'm going to show you guys a couple different touch points today. I think the ones that are interesting and important for you to know about when it comes to your own portfolios. I want to try to open up the back half of this today to be able to check out your own portfolios and give you some feedback. Now, all the information that I'm going to talk about here while I'm showing my stuff, again, I want you guys to get something out of this, it's not just me tooting my own horn. There is a rhyme and a reason to this, and the reason is I want you guys to look at the way I'm setting these things up, look at some of the design notes and features that are going on with these things, and I'll try to explain to you the mechanics and the why of what it is that I'm doing, so that we're not just saying, oh, well, this looks really cool, don't you think? No, there's absolutely a calculated reason for why I do all the stuff that I do. So we're at 2:06 now. Let's kick it off officially. My name is William Moritz, and today I am in an empty house, a house that I have owned for 5 years, and I have cleaned out all the things on the inside of this house. I have been working since the beginning of this year to get this house sold. It's been a long process. I had a lot of stuff, man. And while I'm telling you the story, think about how this sort of relates to your own portfolios and the things that you create within your own lives, right? The works that you produce. And man, this house for 5 years, I had the interior of this house decorated to the nines. This is not a Microsoft Teams background. This is actual wallpaper in this place. And you know, I think that relates back to the way that we present ourselves in our portfolios and the way that we're showing our work, especially as artists. You know, we always want to put our best foot forward. And for this particular house, I really believe that I created the best version of this house that it could be. If you've ever been to someone's home and maybe they have the architecture, the style of the home, you know, looks very homely, like your grandma would live there. And then you go to the inside of it, and then it's just filled up with like Asian stuff, right? All of a sudden, you've got the big dragon statues, you've got the Oriental stuff everywhere, Oriental couches, rugs, furniture, and it just doesn't quite match with the rest of the core architecture of what's going on within the home. There's just something off, and it kind of gives you an uncomfortable feeling. So my goal within this home was to base it on boutique hotels that I stayed in while I was traveling in Costa Rica for 3 months back in 2019 and working remotely. Over this past month, man, since really the beginning of the year, I have been living and dying by this little notebook here. Okay, I've got it right in front of me. I don't know if you guys can, and you don't need to read any of this stuff, but I do want to show you what it looks like. Artists, animators, creatives, we love to check boxes. This is one of my favorite things in the entire world. And this is my little list that I started from this morning. This is a living list, and so it continues to grow. I do this. This is for stuff that I've got to clean and I got to take care of around the house today, you know, the chores. But I do this for all different areas and walks of my life. And I think that this is a really great way as a budding creator for you guys to start breaking down some of those big tasks, some of those long-term tasks and goals that you have as designers and artists into small, daily, actionable things. This is something one of the first presidents in the United States, Benjamin Franklin, really got into. And he would have this whole like time thing set out throughout the entire day. It was really strange. I think it was probably something he read in the back of a magazine during that era and decided to apply it to his life. But I do recommend that you guys start making lists about what it is that you want to accomplish and what it is that you need to get done. Because sometimes, especially as we are growing in creatives, we're no longer in a school like Art Heroes or maybe a university or something like that. It can become really difficult in our adult lives to be able to structure our time to be able to stay creative and to stay working towards those long-term goals. And, you know, this list, man, I keep like 1 page a week open, and some days I don't make it to everything on that list, but by the end of the week, I usually try to check everything off of there and make sure that it's good, actionable stuff. So for myself, when it comes to my creative career, I graduated college back in 2007, and shortly after that, we had a little thing that happened called the world financial crisis, right? All the stocks, all the world economies went absolutely down the toilet for quite some time. And as a result of that, this is a good lesson for you guys today to keep in mind in your own creative careers, is that art, historically, for as long as it's been around, every major piece of art that we have in a museum that we still champion and love today, art follows the money. And in this instance, and back in 2008, when the money dried up, when the economy crashed, what I found at that time when I really needed to enter into the world and been focusing on my craft, had my portfolio together, was that no one was hiring because the money wasn't there for it. When the economy shrinks, people stop spending money on creative. That's one of the first things to go. The first thing they fire is HR, human resources. Those guys are out the door, the ones that do the firing and get the boot first. The second people to go are usually the creatives. So they start downsizing the creative staff because it is extremely expensive to keep a 3D modeler on, an animator on. This stuff takes a long time to be able to do, and get them in and out the door. At that point in 2008, the gig economy was really sort of created. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this term, but we've been living in it for well over a decade now. And the gig economy is the 1099s. The company isn't going to pay your taxes. You're going to assume the taxes at the end of the year. There's no long-term commitment or benefit to the job. So you come in, you do the work, you assume all the risk, and then as soon as that job is done, the contract's completed, and then you're out the door. Whew, man, I could have never anticipated when I finished my schooling that I was really going to be signing up to almost be in a career as like a rock musician. Is an analogy I've used a lot over the years, where you're traveling from city to city, from town to town, from job to job, playing different gigs, right? Get up on stage in a new town, get up there, rock it out, do an amazing job. The crowd goes wild, you get all the cheers, and then the show is over. It is time to go. It's time to hit the road and go on to the next spot, wherever that happens to be. Man, that is a heck of a way to live, and it is certainly a young man's game. So through that time, I ended up discovering a whole bunch of different skills. We'll switch off of me so I'm not looking, so you guys aren't seeing this anymore. This is my website here, and this gives us a good chance to be able to start talking about those skill sets. So I have had a very non-linear path through the design world. What this means is that I did not come. I know some of you guys are judging me right now for all my tabs up here. I don't care, man. This is how I live my life. I got a lot of tabs, whatever. So anywho, a very non-linear path through the design world, because I was not able to initially get steady or consistent work in 3D animation, motion graphics, and 3D modeling when I got out of college. I had to start taking on some other skills and learning some other things. There comes a choice, right? I think this is where most people drop out of the creative world and go into nursing, is they decide that they're just not making it. They're not making enough money. The work isn't consistent enough. And at that point, you've got two different options for your portfolios and where it is that you're heading. I am personally not a big believer in specialization. I am the world's biggest proponent of being a generalist, and like to call myself on all my different professional touch points a creative problem solver instead of just a 3D modeler or motion graphics person. And this is a result of really kind of my own journey and the circumstances that I had to overcome to be able to stay within the creative space. So I have worked, man, just from the website, you'll see that there's two different routes that we can take. We can take motion graphics or branding and advertising. When it comes to former clients that I've had in the past, I've worked for Ford, Delta, Porsche. You can read the list. A lot of Fortune 500s. And currently, I'm working for the Centers for Disease Control. So this is the United States version of the World Health Organization, and their home office is based here in Atlanta, Georgia. I started working with the CDC in 2020, I saw everything starting to shut down. And this time around, I was like, oh my God, we're about to go back into something like 2008, like the world financial crisis again. This time I'm getting in line with those guys, the United States government, because they print their own freaking money. They're not going to run out of cash. I'm gonna jump in line with them. And since then, I've been working with the CDC since 2020. And the work that I do for them is pretty unique. I plinkoed my way, I kind of fumbled my way into a virtual reality position with them. So we'll go into the motion graphics side. So what I do for the CDC is I am building out a virtual reality environment called OneLab VR. That is a 50,000 square foot virtual reality environment with every type of science lab, that's great, that you can imagine. And let's see if we can get that one open. I've been having some problems with my website. So that's where I'm at right now. But I've done virtual reality. I've been a creative director for a gaming company, been a UI, UX designer for mobile apps. I've been a creative director for a financial tech company. I've done the Delta flight safety video, Coca-Cola commercials. I lived in China for 2 years and was one of the concept artists on a TV show on Nick Jr. called the Backyardigans, which wasn't owned by Nickelodeon at the time when I worked on it. That property was bought and sold a couple times, but there's still some of my ideas that are in there from the concept art perspective of it. Doing virtual reality now, it has been a weird and wacky ride. One of the things that I really champion, and I think that sets myself apart from a lot of the other creatives out there, is I am exceptionally good at talking. And because I highly believe that art follows the money, at a young age, I want to get good at thinking in terms of economics, pricing, time scales, time frames, so that I could position myself to be the middleman between the money people that are paying for everything and the artists who don't we all sometimes just have our heads up in the clouds just a little bit too much. This particular symbol here, I chose this, and this is getting into my personal branding now, and as well as the colors, because everyone loves a day at the beach. And so I've got this shell thing that's got a nice, flowy organic shape to it. There's nothing hard about it. It just feels really, really relaxing. And then it's got that sense of the micro details on the inside of it, a little city. There's a lot more inside of this space than you first kind of see. The colors within the background, we've got an exciting red and a yellow that sort of represents a sunset. Again, I'm trying, when people see this website and see this artwork, to give them a sense of peace and calm and serenity, because it is always scary trying to hire and bring on a new artist to any studio environment. You don't know if they're going to be able to jump into your pipeline. You don't know if they're going to be able to mesh with the rest of your team, your hardened soldiers that you had in there for 4 years that are all grizzled. And this is the entire point of this website, and the backing and the design for it is to, show sort of a more high-end design structure and then give them a nice, peaceful feeling. Got about 12 more minutes here to be able to talk about some stuff. The next one, when it comes to touch points for your own portfolios, I've got my personal site. This is built on a WordPress frame. I'm using something called the Divi Builder, but there are other comparables out there. At this point, Wix, any of the other major out-of-the-box website designers have caught up, and they all have visual builders where you can pretty much create this exact same website with any kind of ding-dong and widget that you might conceive of and want in there. So WordPress, not as important. If you're selling websites to people, it's a great thing to be able to have, but it's hard to be able to manage it. And, a lot of times, once a year, usually in the fall, I'll go through and actually show some of my update on whatever projects I've been working on. So let's see here. Where is the CDC stuff? This seems to be imaging an older version. So that's my personal website, each little section on here. how's it going? Let's see if that's going to work out. Nope, not connected right now. That's okay. That's where my Instagram feed normally goes. All right, so the next big one to be able to load in addition to your personal website is going to be ArtStation, right? Sometimes I believe that ArtStation is specifically made for 3D artists, 3D modelers. They seem to get all the easiest flow and traction on this platform. And I've been doing a lot more traditional stuff whenever I'm not working for the CDC. The CDC is where I do all the VR, 3D modeling and whatnot. And you can't share that stuff out. So the stuff I can share to be able to keep my portfolio updated and fresh looks like this. So in the beginning, we were talking about telling stories, right? And that is one of the biggest things when I look at your portfolios here in 10 minutes that I'm going to continue to stress to you guys is how you can tell the story within the works that you are creating. When we're making these things, oftentimes we are so in our heads. We've got our list, right? Our list of 100 different things that we need to do for a ZBrush model. You know, you got to texture it, got to light it, got to pose it, got to do all the things, got to get the modeling right, got to add the cloth to it, all the little details. And then after we've gone through this massive list here, we're so in our heads because these models and these projects take so long that when we upload them to our websites, our personal websites or ArtStation, I find that a lot of artists aren't really that great at telling the story of why these works matter. Now, this is something I always like to recommend to everybody is, you know, if you're a new artist and you're running into the inevitable question, well, they say that I need 4 years of experience but I don't, and this is an entry-level job and no one will give me experience, right? You've heard this story, you've seen it before, you've seen it happen with your buds. You can take these projects, right? I'll show you one right here. So this guy, this is my intergalactic rock star character that I developed. Let's imagine he's a 3D character, and this is an in-class example project that I did for my students for environments, for a digital illustration course that I was teaching. And they did a character development section at the end of it. What I would do if I was a student just graduating is I would start to call this like spec work. Spec work means speculative work. And oftentimes within every branch of creative, whether it's architecture, interior design, graphic design, motion graphics, branding, anywhere across the creative spectrum, artists, studios are going to be asked, well, hey, would you go ahead and put together a presentation for what it is, why we should choose you to produce our project or produce our animation show, pitching your ideas, right? Speculative, going out and, you know, prospecting for gold. And I would say not to label this or a body of work similar to this, if you've got a character that you've developed or you 3D modeled, to say that this is spec work that was sent off or delivered to Cartoon Network or Rockstar Games or, you know, whoever. And even if that is just you emailing Rockstar Games a link to the PDF, then you have speculatively shown this work and produced it to get more work from Rockstar Games or to hopefully get a paycheck from them. And that changes the entire conversation about what this portfolio is, because all of a sudden someone seeing it feels like, oh my gosh, you know, Rockstar Games, we know who they are, and they start to connect you, small little, William Moritz here in Atlanta, Georgia, with this major, internationally known gaming house and gaming studio. Whereas before you were just another portfolio that they were looking at. Within my own website, that's what I always find is, that's why on the very front page, I've got one little graphic. This is for the branding and advertising. Let's go back to the home section. A little about me part, how long I've been working creatively, need to update this. And then all of a sudden I start flashing those various projects. All these are links, if they're working, to the various jobs that I've done. And when companies love to be able to hire people and say, oh my gosh, they work for Delta, they work for this big this big international company, we're happy to have them. So the little guys like to hire the people who have worked for the big guys, and the big guys like to hire the people who have also worked for the big guys. And once you start to tell the story of at least aspiring or making work on the level of those big guys. So let's say I didn't have Delta or a major airline within my portfolio, then I would turn around and do a speculative project. I would do my own interpretation of what the new Delta plane should look like, the vehicle wrap on it. I would come out with an entire branding package, cellular development. I would make like a UI UX with all the different screens for what the new Delta Sky Miles application could look like to help fly and talk about the problem that I'm solving by creating a new way for them to be able to use their Sky Miles. And so that's what it is. We are telling the story, the why. And this is what the character development looks like here. So if you would, squint your eyes, kick your head to the side, and imagine that you are doing a 3D modeled character that you've taken through a whole bunch of different steps to be able to develop them and get them to the final use case. That is exactly what's happening here, just with character development in traditional media. So in the beginning, I'm showing that we're beginning with silhouettes. One of the silhouettes was chosen. After that, we go through, we develop the silhouettes out into various options. I think this is a great thing to be able to show within your own portfolios is the different options for how you can take a character design and move it in different directions. When you're working in a studio, oftentimes it is designed by committee. So it's not just going to be your first original idea. That's the one you end up showing on your website because it's the best. But the final product and the final thing that gets to market might be very, very different. And it's not outside of the realm for them to ask you, to show 6 different iterations for how this character could look. The top paid concept artist in the entire world, the guy working for Marvel Studios, who is single-handedly responsible for making all the superhero costumes look like they came from Edna, from The Incredibles. They all look like they're from the same tailor. Still has to submit various options for the characters, even though he's been doing it for over 10 years. So after that, I've got a backstory for this character. Who are they? Why do they matter? Why did I create this thing? Step 2, facial expressions. For yourself, this might be going through and showing the pictures, telling the story of how you 3D modeled the character. What does the topology look like? What does the build of the character look like? From there, I would go in and I would start showing some details, right, of how you concepted out what the clothing is going to look like, pairing sketching with the actual final 3D model of things like the knee patches, the rips in the jeans, how sweet the hands look around the fingernails and the dirt that you decide to, paint under the character's fingernails when you had too much coffee at like 2 a.m. in the morning. After this, you're going through and you're starting to move towards the final works. What is all of this leading up to? And then you have the big reveal at the end for your character's turnarounds, and then, give yourself some space to be able to have some more details there for that. Here's another example of telling the story. I've got 2 more minutes here before we jump over to you guys. This is my latest example for environments for animation and doing background art. This is a fun portfolio here. It gets no likes and no views. Also, this is a good time to plug myself. If you want to follow me after this today, if you ever want to ask any questions, if there's anything I can help you with, if you ever need a letter of recommendation or anything like that, Skato.org, SKATO.org. Without the little period there, that's where you can find me absolutely everywhere on the internet. This Skatorg word, whether it's Instagram, that's a great one to connect with me on, ArtStation, my website, etc. So when it comes to looking at the environments for animation, I'm doing the exact same thing, where for this first one, it's called Welcome to the Jungle. I'm showing all the different progress shots along the way of how this thing came together and talking about why each one of these steps mattered. What was I able to create? Why did I go through each one of these steps? Were there any challenges? Were there any specific problems that I faced that I overcame throughout each one of these steps? After that, again, showing just other variations and details between that particular project. Next up is medieval times. For this one, I did a pirate ship that was being built. And each time I'm trying to really tell the story of the why I'm going through each one of these sections. One of the last things with this time that I have, I'm going to show you very briefly my LinkedIn page as well as what my resume that I send off looks like, is when it comes to graphic design, a lot of times 3D artists, animators have spent so much time learning how to do the human figure, the human face perfectly, to do hands, to do all these amazing skills that you haven't worked on your graphic design skills. In the same way that when you first became an artist and you started drawing still lifes, or you started working from references to be able to get that 3D model to look just right, when it comes to text on screen, when it comes to photos, because that's what we're uploading here, we're looking at a series of photos, you need to be able to use references as well. Do not try and reinvent the wheel. I don't know why people think that, oh, graphic design, just because it's text, doesn't matter. This is the business card. This is the first impression that people are getting of you. And to be able to lay this work out in a professional way that looks like it's at the same grade or quality that the websites and the studios that you're admiring are displaying their own work, that's really what you need to be laying out. So if you really like Rockstar Games and you're following a blog of theirs or whatever, or any of these major gaming studios or 3D houses on social media, start looking at the way that they're laying out and using the text as well as the ornament around the text to really be able to show off these various projects. That is uber, uber important for you guys to know and understand. All right, here's a little video for this weird spaceship project. I'm gonna show that, then the LinkedIn, and then the resume. This is just a quick little parallax project. Sounds good with Daft Punk in the background. Oh man, really simple 2D background. Created the layers for it, brought it into After Effects, added the parallax, some simple effects to it, and it creates all of a sudden a much more engaging final project. So I'm not just showing, right, this one painting, that's actually the full final painting, but instead I'm getting a lot out of this, where I'm showing the various steps that got me there and led me to this final result. All right, LinkedIn's next. So you'll notice on LinkedIn as well, I've got my same logo that's going from my website. I think on my LinkedIn, maybe I've got my portfolio in process. So there's a link to my website there. Different information. I've got a lot of buzzwords on each one of these, and I'm talking about what my accomplishments were, how I helped solve a problem, and how I was able to contribute to the team's success and taking ownership of my role. There's a lot of padding and things that we can do within LinkedIn to really make our role feel more grandiose than it was. So for this one, Freud and Diablo, man, these guys stuck me in a room with no windows, with a really obnoxious like video editor guy that I did not get along with, and had me do 3D models for their packaging. On their packaging for these saw blades, like saws that they would sell, and they didn't really know how to use a 3D artist. They were a production company, or they made tools, man, and they didn't know what to do with me. So there it goes. Now motion graphics is working, beautiful. There's the OneLab VR. We're gonna skip over that because I want to show you Diablo. And I think this story is more important to tell than the VR stuff right now. So it was these tiny little labels for their packaging. They wanted these 3D character, or these 3D models of what their saw blades could be used on. And in the meantime, like waiting for a review, waiting for people to get back to me, waiting for approval, I would start to make little things like this, little branding animations for their logo, and be like, hey, you know, maybe this is useful for you guys. I was getting paid hourly and I had a commitment for the hours for each week. So I was like, well, I'll use the hours. Let's make something cool that's also going to help me take one step forward. So I asked them, I said, how detailed do you need these 3D models? How big are they going to be at the end? And they're like, oh, well, you know, really detailed. They didn't answer me right. So instead, I made the most like detailed 3D models you've ever seen before in your entire life of these various pieces of construction and construction equipment. Textured the living hell out of them, rendered them so they are the most beautiful renders of like saws and blades and stuff that you've ever seen in your entire life. And this is what I ended up showing as the final portfolio for what was otherwise a very, very boring job that did not require a whole lot of creativity. And out of this, I got a beautiful, beautiful project that has helped me get a lot more work later on down the line. So I would always recommend that in this gig economy, while you're doing the renders, while you're doing the work for the studio and meeting the deadline and doing a great job there, that you also always make sure that you're covering your bases in your butt, that you're walking out of there with some good pieces and some good formatted renders that you can very easily put within your portfolio later on to really tell the story of what it is that you did. Here is a beautiful example to end it on before I show you guys my resume. This is just a couple pieces of metal, right? This is just a texture test that I did, and each one of them is, I think, just one render. And with a little bit of design, a little bit of motion graphics on there, now all of a sudden these very banal, very boring objects become something really aesthetically pleasing, and they have been elevated quite a bit with this motion graphic. So this is a great thing for you guys to think about within your own works. I know you think, oh my gosh, that leg patch that I did on the character isn't a big deal. It's not a big deal that, you know, the character has a shoulder on them. But I'm telling you that you can photograph, you can render, you can highlight details and add a little bit of design and a little bit of flair and a little bit of graphics to it. And through the story that you're telling, make it feel like it's the most important thing in the entire world. Here's a crazy one right here at the end. Come on, buddy. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but turns out removing stuff from 3D to cut out letters is not an easy thing to actually do. It would have been a lot more simple just to be able to feed that into a CNC machine and video it than actually doing it this way, but it was a good lesson learned. Okay, last thing, and then we're going to turn it over to you guys. Sorry for taking up a little bit more time. This is the resume that I walk into studios with. This is also the one that I send out. So it is a double-sided print, full bleed, because we want to be fancy and we want to put our best foot forward. It also has the same branding that you're going to see on the website as well. Notice it's simplified for print. I think that 3D stuff a lot of times on paper doesn't really look all that great. So instead I'm using paper for what it is, graphics and flat graphics, and making the cityscape a little bit more flat. As we get up into the resume, here's what I've got. This is my structure for it. I've got a bar, a column over on the left-hand side, still flashing that same little graphic, talking about my previous clients very, very briefly, just highlighting some of the big guys. After that, I've got my expertise. Each one of these are all about leadership and development. You know, I'm not writing on there, I know how to use Maya. I know how to use Photoshop really well. Instead, these are soft skills that I'm elevating because I'm targeting more of a senior role. And this is also a great way if you're a beginning, just getting into your career, to help your resume or your LinkedIn start to pop and hit for those auto searches that so many companies are using nowadays. Because talking about those soft skills, about problem solving, about rapid onboarding, about great communication skills, off-site deliverables, really help your resume to be able to jump up to the top of the stacks. Then finally down here at the bottom, I've got my tech skills that are going on. Just to give an overview, don't go ahead and show any of them that are really, really low, or call yourself a beginner in any of this stuff. All that you want to be really, really high, okay? Now from here, I've got my profile. Very few people actually read this little blurb here up at the top. They won't read this until you actually get inside, past a couple different rounds, and they decide to call you up and have your first or second formal round of interviews before anyone's going to read this. After that, they're looking for your experience, and they want to see that you've worked for some large companies, or what the highest role that you've led was. So we've got senior, lead, creative director, lead, concept artist on there, right? So I'm calling out those big names to be able to help my stuff jump to the top. New animators, new creatives always want to put their education right at the very beginning, because that's what you think is the most important accomplishment that you have up until that time. I would highly recommend that as you continue to get 1 or 2 years removed from your degree, whether you've done anything with it or not, start to move that closer down to the bottom, because they will look at what year it is that you graduated. And then finally at the very bottom, I've got all the contact information. If you decide you want to follow up, that's where you can find me. But this is the order that I've got it. My name, my blurb, very short, very concise. This is really, really tight copy here. the experience. And again, you can see that I'm really highlighting what my role is. I'm not putting a date in. So some of these for Uptempo, I was a creative director, God, for maybe 6 to 8 months, but instead, it took me another 3 months to find my next gig. So instead, that becomes all of 2019. That's what I was doing there. That makes sense? So you don't have to be quite as specific with the start and end dates as you might think. All right. That's all the stuff I have to show you guys. I'm going to stop sharing my page for a second and switch back over to you guys now. Hey again, 2:40. We're at 20 minutes, 3 people. Boom! What did you think? Was any of that useful?
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. Super useful. Thank you. And very interesting as well. Like the way that you sort of took us through the journey of your life.
Say that again.
Sorry, my internet's quite unstable. I was saying I enjoyed how you took us through that journey. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, I think it really is about the storytelling. Oh, can you guys mute your mics until you're talking? We'll get a little bit of reverb here. But it's about the storytelling, right? And what kind of story it is that you are telling in all of these different touch points and how you're telling the journey of your work. So before we start getting into sharing out some of your own portfolios, your LinkedIn, your resumes, etc., again, you guys can follow up with me. After this, scato.org, I'll type it in the chat so you can find it. It's 2 O's. If we don't quite make it to something that you want me to look at or check out, just send me a link through there and I'll be happy to get back to you with like a voice chat or something later on. But when you guys start to step up to the plate and share your workout today, the first thing I want you to do before you introduce yourself is tell us a cool story for something that you've gotten into this year. I'll go first. For myself, I was going to this giant bouncy castle thing that was going on in Atlanta, where you bounce up and down. I got there a little bit early, and instead I ended up I saw a sign that said that there was a cat show that was going on that day. And I had an hour before I went to go do the bouncy castle thing, and I ended up going to my first cat show where they're rating different felines and cats. And that was a really weird off the beaten path thing that I got to do this year. So if you guys would share something new or interesting that you've gotten into besides just working your butt off in 2024 that you were not expecting to do this year briefly. David Rodriguez, your mic is hot. Will you go first, sir?
Okay. Hi. So this year, well, the experience I had, like I didn't expect to. I quitted my job. I worked at a outsourcer studio. But like my main goal in life was always like create characters. So I wasn't accomplished that goal in that studio. So I was doing like props and scenarios and stuff. And so like I talked to a lot of people, a lot of my friends, and they were telling me like, we know that you're not happy there. So why are you there? You're young, you have all these opportunities presented to you, so just take them. And yeah, at the end, it was my first job in the industry, so I was like kind of sad the first 2 weeks. But as soon as I started like creating characters here at Art Heroes, like all that went away, and I started enjoying more of the 3D process, the everything in general. And yeah,
I love that, man.
That's it.
Yeah. Do you want to put your website or any of the links that you'd like for me to review or check out within the chat, and I can give you some feedback on it briefly?
Yeah. Let me get them.
Yeah, I think that's so important. For myself, yeah, when the economy crashed, I started bartending for a little while. I was working as an art director at the Boys and Girls Club. And that's where like I really kind of got my love for art back. For a long time, I'd been working these various jobs that were just soul sucking and just taking it all from you. And every piece of design that I would make at that time was for my portfolio. And it had to be the best thing in the entire world. So there's so much pressure. If I could get the best thing in the entire world, then I'd be able to make money, and then I'd be able to have a life, and I'd be able to have a career. And there was so much pressure that I was putting on myself that I kind of lost that innate love of just drawing and doodling and discovery and creating something. So when I went and worked at the Boys and Girls Club and became the art director there, suddenly I was in a room with a bunch of either elementary schoolers to like middle schoolers and talking to them about art and design and the things that I learned, and watching their kind of exploration and discovery with it really helped me reconnect with what it is that I innately love about art. And it's never stopped from there. But yeah, that was a dark point. All right, David. Open to work. I like it. So with the top photo that you have going on there, man, I would recommend maybe dropping that into one of the AI image generators and getting a little bit more neck in that photo, showing a little bit of a collared shirt, a little bit of a smile, looking towards the camera. Mine doesn't have particularly a collared shirt on, but I am flashing a big old smile. And that really does make a big old difference.
Okay.
Yeah. Next thing, real simple. You've probably made a lot of beautiful artwork. Get yourself a banner up there on your LinkedIn. Yeah. And so now I would say, because you have already had one industry job, generalist, GBOT, you are no longer just a junior character artist. You can just say 3D character artist, and the junior, go ahead and drop that from it.
Okay.
Yep. So at the beginning here, we're leading with the number, right? Always that number of how many years you've been working within the industry. Make that number a little bit more buried if you feel the need to put it on there. And I would say that even if you are not working directly in the creation of video games in there, you are still a part of that culture, and you are still a part of that world. So if you wrote this 2 years ago and it's been another year, go ahead and bump that up another year. Give yourself a slide because you are still, whether you realize or not, now that you've broken through the ether and had a job in that, you are forever in this gang. All right, there's no getting out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 30 years of experience creating developed video games. I developed my skills as 3D hard surface artist and journalist, working for projects like Madden 2023 and more. Oh my gosh, that's massive. All right, have knowledge on different pipelines and workflows to deliver assets. All right, this is cool. This is fun. All right, let's take it. I'm gonna try and do this real quick. God, I talk too much, you guys. I'm so sorry that I talk so much. I feel like we're not gonna get to see everybody's, but I wanna run through this real fast. On my resume, I don't know if you saw it, but in here I've got down at the very bottom copywriting. God, I used to hate copywriters. I was like, those are just failed writers that ended up in an ad agency.
Yeah.
But copywriting is awesome. It's really cool. And once you start to have a copywriter's mindset, you can really do a lot of cool stuff. So check it out. I'm going to post this in the chat for you in just a moment. So let's take your blurb. I'm sure this is really, really old and you haven't worked on it in a long time. All right, 2 years of experience on the creation of video games, and developed my skills as 3D hard surface modeler, generalist, and more. Have knowledge on different pipelines and workflows to deliver assets with the quality and technical specifications that projects require, such as trim sheets, optimization on low poly, LODs, LODs, level of detail, and more. And now develop my skills as a 3D character artist to follow my dreams to create stunning and functional characters for AAA games. I love it. All right, let's go. So we've got dedicated 3D modeler with launched titles on various launched titles, such as Madden 2023, and more. All right, so we are leading with that. That is a great one-liner, and I think that after everything you've heard me talk about for this past hour, you guys have got the gist of what my sort of mantra and feedback is going to be from here. So, or my own creative mantra. What am I doing here, right? So we're saying that you're dedicated, you're a 3D modeler. Within the first 3 words, we know exactly what you do. We know that you are dedicated to this life, man, and that you are dependable, that you are going to keep on working at it. And then by the end of the first sentence, that you know that you have had a launch title. In the video game world, this is the most important thing every one of those damn job descriptions says is you must have at least 3 launch AAA titles. Yeah. And you know, that's not the most important thing, because so many of those games, when you get into the teams, don't launch. You've been working on it for 2 years and you have nothing to show because some higher up decided at the last minute to pull the development on that game. Like, it's just not fair, right? All right, so here we go. Expertise in working in various pipelines within the AAA gaming industry. So again, we're reinforcing that first line. We're just branching it out a little bit more and dropping that AAA all-important title for video games. Right? They love to hear that. Now we can talk about the specifications for what it is that you're able to do. So trim sheets, no, wait, let trim sheets a little bit confusing. LODs, low poly, and texture sheet. There we go. So we're saying optimization twice. Texture sheet. What's another word for optimization? Texture sheet best practices. And what's called currently pursuing this last line's a little shaky and can be improved, but I think that'll work. Gaming world with, all right, there we go. I think that's a strong ender. Currently pursuing various contracts within the AAA gaming world with a focus on 3D character art and helping to develop stunning functionality for the gaming industry. Yeah, that'll work. Pretty good. So we're slightly switching it around. I like that this one leads with a strong opening line. It's short, it's punchy. The middle one expands a little bit more, talks about what it is that you do and have done before in the past. And the third one is aspirational and talks about what you're doing while not saying, you know, I quit my job, screw them, I was miserable, you know. And now it talks about that you continue to take on contracts, and that it opens the conversation to say, okay, well, what are you working on right now? What kind of stuff have you got going on? And again, you say, oh, I'm developing, you know, a potential project for this, this, and that. Here's the work. I'd love to show it to you. You know, this is the key name of the character. Back to this. Oh, gosh. Okay. All right. Wait, that's your LinkedIn. We already clicked on that one, right? Oh, Taryn, you're a different fella. Cool. Oh, you guys all did it. You just jumped in there. All right, ArtStation. I already know this. Okay, that's super cool. All right. Rodriguez. Cool, man. So I know you got something out of my pitch today when it comes to the storytelling. This is a great looking little character that you have here. And again, the important part is we are telling the story for each one of these things. So for your radish head, gas mask wearing bomb dude, there is so much more that we can do. Think back to this one, right? So we've got a fairly simple character that you've developed within that first project that you're leading with on ArtStation. Some strong lighting, some good graphic design sense on it, and it can look absolutely amazing. It can look like the most exciting, badass character that you've ever seen before in your entire life. The flat lighting or uncolored lighting, the sort of just blank gray background makes him feel really, really kind of sad. I know he's supposed to be a sad character. He has sad eyes, but we can still make him look absolutely polished and absolutely beautiful with something that's this gorgeous. Yeah. And again, a short, brief description of who this character is, why this character matters, why you created this character, always does wonders to be able to help people connect with what it is that you're making and the color of the story in a little bit more. All right, this character's sweet looking. Again, get those beauty shots, man. You worked hard on this guy. I think he's got a really, really great shape and design to him. And this is a slightly stronger looking render here. But again, go up, add some depth of field within Photoshop or something else, just to be able to sort of blur it around the edges just a little bit more to make it feel more like a photography studio. All right, for this one, we got the T-pose that's going on with the character. I would, again, since it's at this stage, consider going in a little bit closer and, throwing in some of the early concept work as well. So sketches, any kind of details and drawings for it, and really tell the story about how you got it to this particular stage. And if there's if you've got the character within the T-pose, you can definitely drop it into not Mixmodo or whatever that website is that has the preloaded animations on it, and get this character jumping around and moving. And I think telling the movement of the story character from the top will really help it hit and make quite a bit more sense. All right, Tarn, how are you doing today? Whoa.
Hello again.
Hey again.
Sorry, I hope my internet's a bit better.
Oh, good. Tell me something cool or unexpected that you've done this year.
So my fiance has basically given her life to charity, and she always helps out at this place called Pug Rescue. And a couple of months ago, it was their mascot's 15th birthday. He is a pug with dwarfism named Pickles, and we attended a birthday party to celebrate this little guy. And yeah, it was a really cool event. A lot of people showed up.
Oh, thank God. All right. I was so worried Pickles was going to bite the bucket. Kick the barrel.
Me too. We all were.
Right after the party in the middle of it while he's like blowing out his candles. Thank God. All right.
Funny enough, coming to what you guys just spoke about, David, I actually had the exact same experience now in the past couple of months. Will, you were mentioning that projects get pulled, and I have been with the same company since 2020, and I've worked on 3 games that have all been scrapped, and I've actually also now just taken the plunge, quit my job. I don't have a portfolio as such. I've put something together today to just to have a look at, but I got this job through contacts, so I'm hoping to look for new opportunities now, because I can't handle everything I've worked on just getting scrapped,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just eventually the startup has to actually start up,
Well, that's called moving the goalpost, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Change, expand, pivot. That is the nature of the agile startup world, and it is a very, very frustrating thing. Shit, man. Last year, I worked on a new branding and new logo rollout for my department at the CDC, and worked on it for 8 months. And it is the most expensive logo I've ever sold in my entire life for how many hours they burned on this thing. We're talking like 40 grand $40,000 for a logo.
Oof.
And just the beginning of the branding like journey. And yeah, 8 months in, they completely scrapped it. They hired a third party that came in for probably $1 million and created something that looked absolutely hideous. And I was fine with it because I was just sitting there smiling, thinking, that's okay. I don't really care about this job, but I know I created some great work that I'm going to show on my portfolio later on, and it's going to help me get more work down the line.
Yeah, I get that.
Within the advertising world, there's something called kill your darlings. It's an old
Writing too, hey?
Yeah, and it's don't get too attached to any of the work that you've created. And again, that same idea of the final product might end up being something very, very different from what you initially created. Just show the first work, just show the first stuff on there right from the get-go that you love the most, that you want to put out there into the world to help you get more work. Cool. This is a great shield on this character. Yeah, I'd recommend doing beauty shots or some extra shots of the shield zoomed up. We've got all the various texture builds, got a recolor on the character, great silhouette on the character design, other good shapes with these skulls that are going on within the back. The back is a section of the character, a back and the legs, that most people really don't focus on. So whenever I'm judging or looking to bring on another 3D artist, this is something that I'm always looking at, especially is, are they willing to make the back interesting on the characters? Does the back still read? Does it still have some kind of discovery portion to it? And has it been well considered? Same thing goes with the legs and the back of the legs. So this is all looking pretty good and solid here. But yeah, watch for those little details on your 3D models, because if I'm looking at it, I know other 3D art directors and creative directors are looking for that type of stuff. Yeah, so you've got some great leather padding here on the legs. That's looking really nice, good shapes and forms. And I think that this is a great example of using all the skills for where you're at within your creative journey right now and showing them and putting that box of skills that you have within 3D in the best format and the best display possible. There's still things that can be improved on the 3D model. There always are, but I think that this is a really strong one for where you're at within your career right now. Same thing that I've been talking about before. Yeah, who is this character? Why does he matter? What does he do? Make up some game. If he wasn't made for a game, he's just a personal project. Whatever he happens to be, tell the story of where it is he's going and what he would be used for. So if he was sold, is this a mid-level minion that's going to be within a mobile rogue-like game? Come up with a fake logo for the rogue-like game and start slapping that at the bottom right-hand side of every single one of these renders. And suddenly this has a lot more legs with it. It looks like it's attached to something else.
Okay, cool. I'll do that. I'll definitely do that. That's cool. Thank you.
Yeah, man. If that's what I'm saying. Like, don't just leave this much work just sitting there. Make sure that it feels like it's attached to a larger and bigger world. All right. And then we got your LinkedIn as well. Tarn, cool photo. Also, I respect a man who wears a V-shirt, a V-neck. I hope they come back into style at some point. We're back.
Hey, they're in style in South Africa, man. They're in style in my country.
No. That's considered old head here in the United States if you got a V-neck on. And I really hard on V-necks. I've got like 20 V-neck sweaters, man. Like, and now just waiting for them to come back. All right. Good on you. Keep wearing those V-necks, South Africa. Yeah. All right. So cool render on this character. Same thing, photography lighting always helps, getting a little bit of backlighting so that we're not just losing the silhouette back here. Because you've got just a solid gray background, adding any kind of fog of war to this really helps a lot. This is totally a Dungeons and Dragons character. So even if you did not make a 3D dungeon within the background, drop in a 3D background of a dungeon, blur it out, and add a little bit of fog of war in there, and this character will look 10 times better besides just having a gray background on it.
Okay, cool. So which one was that? I can't see your screen.
Oh, no, I stopped sharing?
Yeah, you haven't shared.
Oh, my God, fellas. You guys We were looking at the green. The green character is what I was looking at a second ago within your art station. I'm so sorry about that.
Okay, cool. No worries.
God. Totally forgot that I hit unshare here a while ago. Come on, buddy. Wait just a sec. All right, now we're back to sharing. We were looking at this guy. Yeah, he's the one that we attached to some kind of dungeon crawler, roguelike, you know, give him backstory, give him a name, why he exists, who exists within that world or that video game, a little bit more world building there. All right.
Okay, cool.
So you got good activity on there, 809 followers. That's nice. Oh, we do love sculpting fat rolls. Fat rolls are a lot of fun to be able to sculpt. I'm happy to share. I've started my program at Our Heroes. That's excellent. When it comes to these updates, again, we're always talking about, and this goes for everyone, is thinking about the problem that you are being presented with and how you are solving that problem. Every one of the advertising, branding, and marketing agencies, the way that they present their work, and that's essentially what you are as an individual marketer or brander, trying to sell your works and sell your product and sell your design to bigger studios or people that want to buy it, is all about, here's the problem in front of me and here's what I did to be able to solve it. So new copy for this. We do love sculpting fat rolls is absolutely great. Use that as the tagline up at the top, but then just one or two more sentences talking about this is a heavier set character, which required a different set of rules or different set of modeling techniques than we typically apply. Talk in the third person if you want, or the plural.
Okay.
Than we normally use. And now all of a sudden it feels like it's not just you who wrote it, but it is, a small team of designers that's coming together to be able to solve this problem. And you are a part of that team. You are not just an island, my friend, even if you are.
I would never think to speak like that. Yeah. Okay, cool. I would have never thought.
This person I've ever coached before in my entire life. This is great. Man. You can be on my team any day, sir. All right. You guys, we're at 307. I think we've got one more portfolio to look at. Do we? Yeah. I could try your name, sir, but I don't want to butcher it. What is it? Did I say it?
You can.
Now, it looks like we got one of those AI bots in the
Can you hear me clearly?
Now I can hear you. Yeah. Now I can hear you. Oh. Okay. Of course, your stuff's radical. AI generated. Clearly. This is from Midjourney, I can tell.
I am
oh my God.
A complete
the robot
voice and.
Oh, there you go. So pretty. Such a cool design. And look at it. And you've already got it explaining who the character is. Up at the top, so you got the bio in there. You're telling the story for what it is you're basically. You've got the details, the hair looking slick. That's the really good 3D hair. Love it. You've got a lot more details that we can show off in this. Love seeing all the different maps. That's great. And you got the starting art. Oh man, that starting art is so slick. Ah, geez. If I was you, I would move the art down here at the bottom up towards the top so that we're seeing the correlation between the final, which looks absolutely stunning. This is a great hero image up here at the top, and then where you began. So we're saying kind of here's the beginning, and then here's the end, and so they know what kind of story it is that they're about to see, especially when you've got strong starting art like this. That is so much fun. I love the design of this horse. That is one of the coolest, what you call it, robot horses that I've seen in quite some time. All right. So that stuff's looking all strong there in your portfolio. I think you got a solid portfolio. Pedro Pascal, you know, he's got about 3 years left in him before Hollywood completely turns on that man. He's starting to get overexposure like Chris Pratt, and I think Chris Hemsworth is going to go the same way pretty soon. All right, get that banner up there. You've got a lot of cool images and renders. So I'm a dedicated. You're using the word dedicated. Nice. Have you been updating this stuff while I've been talking today? You're on it, man. Experience of both stylized and realistic character creation, the extras and realistic faces and likeness. All right, so only thing for the about section, all of this is reading really, really nicely. I would just break it up. One of the cool things that no one ever tells you when you are in high school, when you're working any kind of Word application, this works on the internet as well. So there is something I had to go and get a master's degree in advertising to learn how to do this. I hope you guys, you can see my screen now. So hello, my name is Will. I like to draw. Okay, so what we can do with this is, if this is on mobile, if this is on a screen, if this is on a giant screen, a lot of times we have reactive text nowadays to where if I move this thing thinner, the text will start to go down to 2 different lines, and sometimes it can get spaced out in very strange ways. What I want is for this text to always exist on 2 different lines. So hello, my name is Will. Second line, I like to draw. The way that you do that is you're going to hold down the Shift button and hit Enter on your computer. And when you do that, it creates something called a hard break. There's a little invisible character that you can't see, but the computer recognizes that's a hard break that will always exist there on any format that you're looking at. It works within Facebook messages, it works on LinkedIn, it works anywhere on the internet. And that will allow you to be able to break up this big block of text just a little bit further into more digestible sections. It's well written, it's got a good pacing to it, but we want to make sure that at the end of this first sentence and likeness, we're passionate about my work begins, hit that Shift and Enter twice just to be able to give it a line break. It'll probably say read more, but that's okay. It just, for short little digestible one-liners and copywriting, it makes it a lot easier for people to get through the about section instead of a large paragraph. Good job with the update. Look at all those likes you got on there for 445 followers. All right, this is the last tip for today. You're in a good position with the portfolio that you have built out. And for all of you guys, start following other people that you really like, or even people from other industries. So those 2 guys, LinkedIn, man, just go ahead and send off those likes and start growing out your comments. LinkedIn is one of the few social networks, believe it or not, it is a social network. I'm going to stop sharing now. That is doing really good as we start to close this thing out. So LinkedIn is about to do a huge pivot to where they're going to start implementing the Reels, similar to that you see on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. YouTube's doing them as well. Those little 1-minute blurb and video things is going to happen on LinkedIn. Why does LinkedIn have something like this? Because of all the Chat GPT, the AI generated resumes, and everything else that's going on, there's a big shift with the way that companies are looking for workers. And so that is going to give you the opportunity on your LinkedIn to start telling those stories, telling the story of who you are, what your creative journey was. It's just, I hate it. We shouldn't have to do this, but maybe in the future, it'll become a lot more comfortable to be on camera and to be able to talk on camera about your work or how you created these things. But yeah, video stuff, and that's a lot of what we do, right? We create the graphics, is going to become increasingly important. And I think that we're going to see LinkedIn do a big pivot over the next 1.5 years with those Reels that you should definitely be taking advantage of. I don't know how it's going to pan out. We'll see. But if you see some of your buddies, that are also looking for work, maybe start considering posting some of those on there. I know I get annoying updates from LinkedIn all the time on my phone from guys who I never want to talk to again, but it's got really good reach on it, much better than Instagram or Facebook or anything like that out there right now, as far as getting in your face and going to everybody's phone. Whew. You guys, give it any closing remarks for today. I think I've said everything I need to say. Any final questions for me?
Excuse me. I recently tried to reach out different studios, and I sent out my CV. Actually, I shared a Google Drive link in the chat. Can you check that out? Because I'm quite confident with my portfolio, but I don't know how to kind of attract recruiters to my portfolio because I don't have a lot of followers on ArtStation, and how can I kind of write a CV which can kind of push the recruiters toward my ArtStation portfolio, and I want them to get there and get some impression, because as you said, there are a lot of ChatGPT powered CVs out there, and you can write on amazing CVs with an AI generative tool, and I think that's not a real thing now. So how can I do that?
Yeah, man. So I don't need to click on the Google Drive to help you out with that. It's real simple. What I was just doing a second ago within LinkedIn, where I didn't even really look at any of these people's stuff. Here, I'll connect with you. Send without a doubt. Character artists, other profiles, secondary contacts. Start looking up people at the studios that you want to work at. So if you want to go work for Rockstar Games, type in Rockstar Games. And what we're going to see here under Rockstar Games is how many followers they have here. I have one connection that works there. But you can start looking at the jobs, the people that work at Rockstar Games. So here's the senior talent acquisition person. Start messaging her. Start connecting with them. Here's the manager of virtual production, principal motion graphics artist. Oh, God, I'd love to work with them at Rockstar Games. And start following them on LinkedIn. Then you turn around and you start following them on Instagram. Then you don't friend them on Facebook. That's too personal. That's for family and your crazy aunts with 6 cats. But if you are blindly sending off your resume to these companies, that's really a Hail Mary. If a company finds themselves in a situation where they have to hire someone based on a cold call resume, they have really shot the pooch on their budget and their timeline, and they are trying to rapidly expand for a job that their studio is not currently ready or equipped to handle. And they need to get started fast. Most of the time, it's going to be 6 months, 8 months out before they open up the hiring rounds. And the first thing that they're going to do is they're going to send out feelers for the people internally. They're going to say, hey, we've got a need for a new graphics artist. We've got a need for a new 3D modeler. We've got a need for a new programmer to come in. Do you guys know anyone that is looking for work that we can reach out to? And a lot of those people, their buddies are all busy as hell at their own studios, and they're happily employed because that's who these people tend to hang out with. But instead, that's when Rick Ross has seen your work on LinkedIn because you sent him an update, or all of a sudden you're following each other and he's getting those stupid pings to his phone all the time, and he's seeing these amazing 3D models that you're posting and talking about the problems that you're solving and what you're overcoming and what you're excited about within this industry. And you're in the forefront, the short-term memory of his mind. So he's going to say, well, I do follow this one guy on Instagram whose work is absolutely amazing. For example, if someone asked me to hire like an AI artist, so an AI prompt writer, I know a guy right off the top of my head named Frankenborg, who I've never met before in my entire life, but I think that he's one of the best users of the platform when it comes to the breadth of stuff that he's creating and what he's drawing out of his imagination with those text prompts, that I would totally recommend him in a heartbeat if someone had the need to be able to hire him. And I've never met this guy before, but I see his work. He's always posting on Instagram and other platforms, and I think he's really good, and I'd be happy to throw his name into the hat and see what he can do. So that's your answer there. CVs, the blind, sending this stuff off, not getting calls back from the recruiters. Start going more internally, because before it hits the market, before they actually just hire a rando and bring someone to their ongoing house party there from hell, they're going to ask the people that are already at the house party if they can call their buddy to come in and come join, right? Before they bring people in off the streets. So, yeah. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Thanks.
All right. You guys, we are over on time today. So we're going to end this. If you have any follow-up questions that you think of after this, please, again, reach out to me on Instagram. Thank you so much for joining this chat today. I'm going to get back to cleaning my house now. I hope you guys
Thank you so much, Will. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much. And I hope you share that story of what you get up to in the RV on Instagram or something. I'd love to see your adventure.
I'm going to go do my landscape painting stuff out with me, and I'm going to go landscape paint across the United States this summer.
Oh, dude, I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous.
It's going to be good. All right, you guys take care.
Yeah.
Great to see you today.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, bye, fellas.
Thank you, Will.
Cheers, guys. He was cool.
Yeah, it was informative.
Fast paced.
Yeah, I love the energy of Will.
Yeah. But I'm glad you guys have put your art stations up, because I'm gonna go follow you guys now too.
I'm gonna follow. Yeah, the same. Really great art. Really great art, and also from Amir. Really great pieces
Thanks,
that
man.
you guys created.
Yeah. You guys are doing great. It's looking amazing.
Thank you.
And we must keep in contact on Discord, because I want to hear when you guys have developments.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Yes,
Cool. Have a good evening,
that would be
guys.
awesome.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.